everybody. Welcome to another episode of Connect with KB. I'm so happy to have you tuning in today as we talk about business, education, leadership, and all the wonderful things that connect us to each other. My guests today are joining me from the Wilson Talent Center at the Ingham ISD, where they're serving as student and instructor, as well as mentor and mentee. The ISD is providing wonderful opportunities to young people interested in real-world experience and setting them on a path to success. Joining me today is one of those students, Kobe Rochester, and his instructor, Noel Garcia. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. So good to have you here.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Kobe, I'm going to start with you. I want you to tell me the Kobe Rochester story, and feel free to kind of just start where, the very beginning. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up.
Yeah, so I'm not originally from Lansing. I'm from the Charlotte, Olivet area. I moved out here about 6 years ago. Started at Sexton in 7th grade. It was very much a culture shock. Moved from class size about 100 to now 300, So it's a big difference. It was interesting at first. I mean, not having that diversity out in Charlotte and Olivet area to now having full diversity and full problems, and it was different. I definitely started to get involved more and more in 7th grade and then moved on to 10th grade and got more involved in high school. And I wasn't really exposed to the amount of problems that Lansing has at first in these schools. And I mean, seeing my friends getting shot and getting really deep in this violence, and it was like, whoa, I'm not used to this. I knew that something had to be done, and so that's where I really took the toll of wanting to make a difference. And my whole life story is about making a difference and helping others. That's what I really feel like I'm called to do. So I started getting involved in my church and at Mount Hope Church over on Kreitz, and there's so many opportunities to get involved there. And once I really see what Lansing was, the beauty of Lansing, but also the negative part of Lansing, I knew that we can change the negative part, make that beautiful as well. Like I said, I had lost a friend to gun violence, and that's where I said, okay, Kobe, where do you play a role in this? Where is your change? Where do you make that change? So I wanted to become a police officer. I went to Sexton in the morning. I signed up to go to Wilson Talent Center. I seen a friend of mine walking in the halls at Sexton. She had a Wilson Talent Center law enforcement uniform on. I'm like, okay, that's perfect. I want to go to law enforcement. How do I get signed up? It was right before, it was pre-COVID, right before COVID, and I signed up, and that summer I got a acceptance letter. So my junior year, I started at Wilson Talent Center in the wake of COVID. So it was online at first, so it was rough, but it was awesome.
Well, good for you. You know that to be able to see that, to understand that's part of your journey. This is where you want to be. We're going to get into that in just a minute. Noel, let me turn to you. You are a criminal justice instructor at the Wilson Talent Center. Tell me a little bit about your journey as well.
Sure. So I grew up in North Lansing, and similar to Kobe, I grew up in both my parents were migrant workers in Texas, and they traveled all over the country working in the fields. And so when we came to Lansing, it was because of Oldsmobile. It was my dad found work at Oldsmobile. My mother found work at MSU as a janitor. And so, growing up in a Hispanic family, it wasn't an accepted job, really. There was a lot of turmoil between, the Hispanic culture and police at that time. And I had a lot of cousins, and even my father spoke negatively about the job because of bad experiences that they had. So similar to Kobe, I'm like, I want to change that. I want to be a part of the change because it certainly needs a change. And so that's what kind of got me into law enforcement. Now, I started at Lansing Police Department in 1989. Okay. And right about time of retirement, I had gone to get my bachelor's degree and master's degree, and thinking that when I retire, I want to position myself to maybe go for a chief job in a small to medium-sized department. Then I started teaching adjunct at Baker College of Owasso, and then in the Ferris Lansing campus. And I thought, this is a cool thing, teaching young people. Now, they weren't young people because they were the non-traditional college students. They were a little older. And then I'm sitting at my desk in my office there, 3 months away from retiring at Internal Affairs. I was running that department, and I get a call from then Assistant Principal Jack Brown with the Capillary Career Center, which has now been through a name change to Wilson Talent Center. Anyways, long story short, there was a position open in this at the Capillary Career Center in law enforcement. I really didn't even know much about the program, but I went and visited, and I fell in love with it. I thought this is where I need to be in retirement instead of another high stress job.
Absolutely.
Right? And now I've been doing it 8 years, and I tell you, it's just been wonderful. I've seen over 300 students coming in and out of my classroom, many of whom I feel like they're my own children.
Absolutely.
And the relationships that we build are just amazing. And Kobe's one of them. He's just a wonderful man. I'm so proud of him and what he's done. But I'm more excited about his future.
Absolutely.
I know he has a great future ahead of him.
Yeah, I'm excited about your future too, Kobe. And I told you I had an opportunity to read a little bit about you through the Ingham ISD. And, you really kind of became curious about this role by seeing a police officer at Sexton High School. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we had Officer Jack. That's what we call Officer Jack. He was at Sexton. He's our school resource officer pre-COVID. Again, losing a friends of violence and seeing the violence in the city, and then also seeing an officer at the school, it's like, okay, I see the problem, but I also see the solution. And I want to be part of the solution. So talking to Officer Jack, I was able to know more about his career and see more about what he did and how he helped. I mean, there's so many kids that he's no longer at Sexton now, and there's still kids. Earlier today, a kid was talking about him. There's just the impact that he leaves is just, it's crazy. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's really neat that, you really had an opportunity to see that. It was probably destiny for you in regards to setting you on this path. Talk a little bit about the Lansing Police Department Explorer Post number 911. You're involved in that.
Yeah, so I've been part of this post probably about 4 months now. I didn't realize how serious it was at first. I mean, I remember going there one time in 11th grade and just to check it out, and it was cool. But, man, I've learned so much about myself, about discipline and effort and leadership in this post. I mean, we just got back from a state competition this past weekend. We placed second in the state. This post has been known to bring back trophies for years. We had a continuous streak prior to this year of bringing back trophies. And what it is, it's a program through the department to get people more involved in law enforcement, and young students that really like law enforcement and want to develop that as a career, you can go learn about it at this post. We do PT, we do drills, we do classroom style. Like we have a command structure at the post. It's just a career. It's a program to develop young officers and to help people become officers.
Well, you were recently, weren't you in a handcuffing?
Yes.
Yeah. And you did really well in that.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, good for you. Let's talk a little bit about the program, Noel, in regards to what the students go through. How many students do you have currently? Do you have both male and female?
Oh, yes. That's exciting to me when you ask about gender, because when I started at LCC, I became involved in recruiting right away, and I saw a need for diversifying our police force, not only with the underrepresented and minority officers, but also the female gender. And so when I came to the Wilson Talent Center, I always made sure that we had good female students in there as well, and diversity. And we brought Lansing schools in the second year that I started teaching, and that's when my diversity really blossomed, and I'm really excited about that. But currently we have 52 students. We usually start somewhere, pre-COVID, our numbers were skyrocketing. So we have 96 signed up for next year. And I think the highest number we had was the pre-COVID year, and it was in the 80s. But again, I started here with just one class. That was law enforcement. I was teaching that. And then I saw a need to get more students involved in the program, and then also saw a big need in students who were really interested in criminal investigations. So I brought along a second instructor about 3 years ago to teach a second class, and that's really when we were able to double our student body. And so the students can come in as juniors in their first year and either take my class, law enforcement, or my partner instructor's class, criminal investigations, and then the following year, as seniors take the other class. They don't have to start in one or the other. They can wherever the opening is, we'll bring them in.
So, Kobe, right now you are on a path. I believe you're going to have some credits.
Yep.
Correct? And that you've received those through Lansing Community College?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what's that next step for you? What happens next?
Yeah, it's awesome to be able to have up to 15 credits as a senior going into college, your first year as a freshman, and to only need 32 to be employed by a department. To have my associate's degree, I only need 32 credits. I'm already halfway there. When it saves me money, it also saves me time. So it's awesome. I mean, not a lot of kids can really think about, hey, I can earn credits, college credits as a junior or a senior in high school and be ahead of the game.
Well, you know what? You're going to become a great ambassador for this type of program. And the ISD has so many careers that they can offer. And for young people to be able to do this, and you're absolutely right, to be able to have those credits paid for. What's the next step for you then? What's going to happen? You're going to graduate here in the next month, I think. You only got one more week of school. What will you do in the fall?
So the fall plan is go to LCC, continuing the credits and the class I need in order to become a police officer and obtain my associate's degree in criminal justice. The goal is to work at Lansing Police, to come back and give back to the city, and that's the plan.
Well, good for you. And how long would that then take? Would you be able to do the same type of thing that you're doing with the Lansing Police Department, the Explorer Post? Would you be able to do something like that too when you're going to college?
Yeah, so how the Explorer Post works is from 14 to 21 years of age. And it's literally a sponsorship into the academy. The academy is roughly $8,000 to $10,000, and the department pays for that academy, but they also pay for you to go there. So it's important for anyone that wants to go into law enforcement, be a part of Explorer's program. Not only do they pay for you to go to the academy, but they pay for the academy, and you're getting all that pre-training before you even go to the academy.
Wow, you know, you're really so far ahead of the game already, which really to me is so impressive. You're a really high achiever. What keeps you motivated all the time to do this, to see this success? Because this is not going to be an easy career.
Yeah.
You know, it's not something that, I mean, it is probably high stress. You have a lot of responsibility on you. We see today's day and age that we're in. What makes you, what drives you to this and how you want to perform so well?
Yeah. Well, first, I could give you that generic answer of change my community, but it really goes beyond that. To be able to be a police officer in this day and age and change the community that you live in, it starts by yourself. And if I want to change the community, I have to go step up and do that. So to be a police officer in the Lansing area, when other people that look like me as an African-American man or a woman can see, hey, there's diversity in this program, there's diversity in this department, it's going to make them believe that they can do it. It's harder for companies to recruit people when there's not diversity in those programs. I mean, people tend to not think that they can do it if they don't see people like them in those positions. For the community members to see, hey, there's African-American males and females or whatever the ethnicity is in this program, hey, let's go be a part of that. Especially with improving the community relations with police, that's one of the ways to do it.
Well, you know what? It's interesting, Noel, about your journey and how you were destined and determined to kind of change the perception too within the community. Now you've got Kobe doing that, you as a mentor with him, and the opportunity to really, I mean, how fortunate for you, Kobe, to be able to have a personal mentor like Mr. Garcia. What would you tell other students about the value of going to the Wilson Talent Center? If you become an ambassador, which I think you probably are right now, what's that message?
Jeez, I mean, the easiest way to say it was get involved and don't be scared. I mean, at first, last year I was in Mr. Gomez's class. I wasn't even in his class last year. And to really not talk to him much last year, to now have a full relationship with him, he's taught me so much about the right moves to make and not to go too fast and just take it slow. And man, this guy's helped me so many times with the departments or questions or setting up this or that. Man, it's important for kids to use the resources, and using the resources, getting a mentor, not being afraid to ask. I never thought he'd be my mentor. Never thought he would help me in any of this way. And it's important for kids and students. I mean, I'm still a kid myself, but students to get involved in career centers, whether it be here or at Hill or at LCC or wherever that program is, and take advantage of what these guys have to offer. They're there for you.
Did you think that this is where you were going to end up? Did you think this is what you were going to be doing? Yeah.
No.
And because you know what? Maybe 25 or 30 years from now, this whole thing might be flipped and you might be doing the exact same thing. Yeah. What is it about being a mentor that really brings so much fulfillment to you?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question. I mean, The fulfillment is like I mentioned earlier. I feel like I have kids that I've kind of adopted, right? Because I get to know them really well. And that's the difference between being an adjunct professor in a college. You see them 3 hours a week, maybe 5 hours a week. Now I'm seeing these young people day in and day out for an entire school year, 3.5 hours a day. I get to know them pretty well. I just have to say that from day one, when a student walks into my classroom, I bring up my word, and Kobe can tell you what the E word is.
Effort.
Effort. And I talk to the students about how important effort is. Yeah, academics is important. Attendance is important. All those things are important. But what makes Kobe stand out that other students that have followed their dreams and became police officers, now I'm into the 20s, 30s that are showing up
Sure.
in uniform and telling me about it and letting me know when they're graduating from the police academy, is that it's putting the effort in. And so this young man is the epitome of effort. I'm able to now mention his name when I talk about the importance of putting the effort out there. He's gone above and beyond. He's put himself in Skills USA. He can talk about placing first in the regionals and going to state in that. He's a Lansing Police Explorer. He's got people knocking on his door from the law enforcement community. They're fighting for him. We just had mock interviews, and in between both classes, they're talking about Kobe because he's put himself there. But let me tell you how he's put himself there. It's from the effort that he's put into it. So. Well,
good for you. You know, we talk a lot right now about the criminal justice system. Are there things about it that you think need to be changed? I'm going to start with you, Noel. Are there things about the criminal justice system that need to be changed?
Absolutely. I'm actually on the East Lansing Independent Oversight Commission for East Lansing, and I chose to be on that because I do think there's a lot we can do in criminal justice and law enforcement. We need a reform. First of all, going back to the fight that I've been fighting for 30, 40 years, and that's recruitment. But not only bringing minorities and females into the job, but then retaining them. So retention is just as important as recruitment. But our criminal justice system is disparate, in my opinion, to African American, specifically African American men, young men. And there's so much reform that we can do there, and that I'm interested in making a change in where I live, and that's East Lansing, so that I don't have to worry about Kobe's or even my sons with the last name of Garcia driving around town and being profiled.
Absolutely.
Or being treated differently because of what their last name is or what they look like.
Kobe, do you feel the same way? I mean, are there things about the criminal justice system, law enforcement, you'd like to see change, so that you want to be a part of that change?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he hit it right on the head with that, but also diversity. I mean, if you look at a department, majority of the department's usually going to be about 85% white, if not more. And he's made a change with LPD, and it's coming around. It's making the change, but it's hard to have interaction with people in the community that's predominantly black when majority of your police force is white. And to really make that community policing, that community relation change, it has to start with diversity and recruitment. And that's what it comes to. Especially hearing, like I was hearing one of the conversations today with a classmate talking about Officer Jack, which is an African-American officer. And one of the students says, man, cops suck. They're all bad. And one of them goes, and it caught me off guard. He goes, not all of them are bad. Gosh, we had a black officer at our school, and that's how he said it. And I said, yeah, you're hitting it right on. When I know that I can have a personal relationship with someone in my community because they're not looking at me as just the uniform of that quote unquote white uniform or that white system or the corrupt system, when you can change it by saying, hey, let's have diversity in this program. You know what I mean? Let's change our community so that we're not just the good guys of the cops and the bad guys of the community because of the color, you know what I mean? So it's important to start with diversity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the change started with you, Noel. The change is going to continue with you, Kobe. I read something that you had posted, and it is, you can't cross the sea merely by standing and staring at the water.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Yeah, you can't change the system by just looking at it. You can't change the community by just saying this is the problem, but it's going to continue to be that problem. No, you got to come up with a solution, and everyone has a different solution, but attack it head on, and take control and take accountability for your position in that change.
Well, I see that in you, your passion for what you do, your passion for wanting to make a difference. And you have been surrounded by some great, great people, including your instructor. I applaud the people out at the Wilson Talent Center.
Yes.
A big pat on the back to my friends, Mickey O'Neill and Jason Mellema out there, Stacy Adato, all great people that are trying to point young people in the right direction. Lastly, Noel, I'm going to sign off with you. Tell me a little bit about what you believe and want for Kobe's future.
Wow. Well,
it's a deep question.
The sky's the limit for this young man, to be honest with you. And I tell my students all the time, I'm not here to tell you what you should do. I'm here to help you and achieve your dreams if I can. And for Kobe, it starts with baby steps. You've got to take baby steps. Or he's posturing himself for a cadet position here at one of two different departments that are looking at him as a cadet. So that's the first baby step, getting him into a cadet position. Cadet programs are so important because now police agencies are able to look at these young people and say, okay, they're employable. And he will be employable. He's employable in their minds already. I'd like to see him kind of do what I did, and that's get his 2-year degree, and we've had this conversation, and get into a police agency, and then once you get your feet on the ground in that police agency, pass the training program, go back to school. Yeah. Go back to school, get your bachelor's degree, and that's your next step. And then if you want, again, this is all if he wants it, do what I did. And that's 7 years into employment, I went back to get my master's degree. Again, that's if he wants to follow that path. I'd like to see this young man rise to the rank of chief of police at a police agency somewhere. And that is very possible.
Well, I think it's possible too. And a big pat on the back to you for wanting that for him, being a mentor to him. I think this world needs more mentors. Kobe, I got to tell you, you are so impressive. And not only this opportunity for your career path for you to do well, but to also pay it back and to also watch young people, they're going to follow you. Yeah. And so you have a responsibility there too. But I hope that you will come back and see me again. You get that officer's uniform on and come back and we'll talk a little bit about what you're doing in the community and the impact you're having. I appreciate you both. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you
for having us.
Absolutely. My guests today are Kobe Rochester and Noel Garcia from the Wilson Talent Center at the Ingham ISD. I also want to thank my supporting sponsors, Marketing Resource Group, Dowding Industries, Governmental Consultant Services, AF Group, Public Affairs Associates, and Mercantile Bank. You can listen to all my podcasts at connectwithkb.com. Until we connect again, go live your best life. I'm your host, Kristin Belter.